Hey everyone, what is going on? Welcome to EMU's Live 365. That's Black History 365, where we are celebrating Black history throughout this entire month, as well as 365 days of the year. My name is Taquanda. I am the social media strategist here at Eastern, and I'm excited to be able to have a candid conversation with some of, I believe, the very best people ever when it comes to EMU history, whether we're dealing with faculty, staff, alumni, or those who are from the EMU community. So I am excited about today's live. We won't keep you guys any longer, but you guys know how we do. So we're going to give our nice little disclaimer. Again, we are talking about Black history, 365 days of the year, paving the way, learning from our past, embracing our future, which means if you have any questions or comments concerning today's topic, we welcome them in our comment box. Make sure that you're tagging all your friends, sharing this post, as well as if you are on YouTube, go on ahead and share this broadcast, as well as become a subscriber to learn all things EMU. Now, if you have any questions that are not pertaining to today's subject, we ask that you submit those questions through email to social_media@emish.edu. Doesn't mean we don't want to address them. We just want to make sure that we address them in the right timing. So go on ahead and send those to social_media@emish.edu, and we will make sure that those get passed on to the respective departments, and we will also ensure that you get some type of answer to your questions. So without further ado, we're going to jump right on in to today's conversation with Dr. N.J. Akbar. So listen, you guys know I've had the opportunity of interviewing a lot of folks within this last, week and a half or so, but it's really cool when you can interview your friends. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about NJ. We went to undergrad together here at Eastern. Dr. NJ Akbar. Let's make sure that we put, as my grandmother would say, put a handle on it. So we're going to make sure that we do that today. He is a resident of Akron, Ohio, born and raised in Detroit, went to Central High School. As you know, he got his undergraduate as well as his master's from Eastern in higher education. He has his PhD in Cultural Foundation of Education from Kent State. He right now is serving as the Associate Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and the second to the VP CDO for university-wide diversity efforts at Kent State. He is also responsible for assisting the VP with climate study, as well as strategic planning, research, assessment, and student success initiatives for the division. He also works with the University Diversity Action Council. This man is off the chain, and he is my friend, y'all. So he's been at Kent State since 2009. He is passionately involved with the Final Farewell Project, as well as the NAACP in Akron. He is a veteran of the Army National Guard as well. He also was recently elected, y'all ready for this, as the superintendent of the Akron Board of Education, which we will learn a little bit about that. He is the first Muslim to be elected citywide. That is a huge thing. So we are excited to have him. Not only has he paved the way previously as a student leader here on Eastern's campus. As a student, he positioned a lot of roles. He is chair of the Community Creed Task Force. He was also honored to be emeritus status for the student government in 2007, where he served 3 years on the student senate for 2 years, and as business and finance chair, and then also as treasurer. He is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and he also served as a 2006 Homecoming King, which we will learn a little bit about that. He has a whole lot of awards up underneath his belt, and I'm excited to have him. Most recently, he was elected as the 2020 Elected Official of the Year by the National Association of Social Workers, and he also was named as the 2017 Outstanding Young Alumni Award for EMU's Alumni Association. Without further ado, welcome my very, very good friend, Dr. NJ Akbar.
Hello, how you doing?
Hey, friend.
Hey.
So COVID won't let us be great. So I'm sorry. Let me make sure I get this right. He is the president, not superintendent. I mentioned that before. But let me tell y'all, COVID just won't let us be great. So this is the first time that we've seen each other in like over a year. So excuse me.
We had a Zoom early.
Excited right now.
We had this year. Yeah, I was gonna say we had a Zoom earlier in the pandemic, but yeah, this is the first time.
Right, this is the first time this year. The Zoom.
I know.
That was earlier. Right now. Right now. So listen, I'm excited to have you. I know when we were figuring out exactly like who we wanted to interview throughout this time, myself as well as our GA, Nautica, you know, one of the things that came up and she was like, so, you know, who are you thinking about? And I said, I got to make sure that my good friend NJ is on this bad boy with me. So I am excited to have you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule because you are a very busy man, as I just read your bio for everybody to see. Yes, so yes. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
So as you can see, our comments are going crazy right now. Listen, I'm excited that you wore your shirt. I am very excited that you wore your shirt. You better represent, okay? I am totally excited that you wore the shirt. As you can see from the comments, everybody's excited about NJ being here, you know, with us again. So thank you for everybody tuning in. And as you guys tune in, make sure that you are tagging your friends, tagging your folks, because this is going to be a great conversation. So NJ, yes. What is going on, sir? Like, how have things been? Tell us a little bit about NJ, and especially you being in higher ed, so you understand exactly the climate that we're in and everything else. But we want to get to know you just a little bit better. I know you. The folks don't know you. So let's talk about it. So share with us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, well, outside everything you said, the biggest thing for me is I'm really big on community and making sure that everyone has equitable access and opportunities to thrive and live their lives. And so I, you know, on a daily basis, both in my professional and non-professional life, have spent a lot of time really calling out racism and racist policies and racist people, and it can be exhausting, but I think it's necessary. I spend time with my two dogs. I got two black lab mixes. One is Dotson mix named Piston. I know
you had Piston for a while, right?
I got him in 2016. Yeah, he was 1 year old. I adopted him. He was 1 year old. He turns 6 this year. Yeah, so yeah, so I'm excited about that. And then I have a 3-year-old pit bull lab mix, David, and he's the troublemaker of the bunch.
I can believe it. I can believe it. So
also see my friends in the chat, Shatina and Michelle Cox, formerly Barcy, one of my good friends, and so my partner Alex in the chat as well. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you everybody for joining again. Make sure that you tag everyone and to let them know that we are live. So, you know, you talked a little bit about you know, racism and being able to, you know, call that out, and especially being in the position that you are in when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is extremely important, especially on the higher education level. But I want to dive into that because I know, you know, for some folks who don't follow you, they don't know like the work that you've done, you know, in that space. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Like, share with us a little bit about the work that you've done in that space leading up to now.
Honestly, I want to say I started my work really at Eastern. Eastern is where I began to get passionate about making sure everyone has a fair shot in life. It was the first time I realized that I had a chance because I grew up, I had struggles in school, and grew up in a very low income area, and poor. And I really thought that me being in college was not going to necessarily work out. And I tried my hardest to fake the funk, right? I stayed in the library so that I wouldn't live out my fears, which was failing. And um, because I didn't think I thought I was an imposter, right? I didn't think that I was supposed to be there. I had a 13 on ACT, so shout out to Eastern. They still took a risk on the kid, and I hope I make it, okay? Because that 13.
Listen, the ACT, SAT don't make a person. We need to talk about that. It does not make the person. All right.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I'm always thankful for them accepting me with a 13, because they saw something. But really, that's where I got my start. With the campus creed and student government were really the biggest pieces of where I started to work on issues. I had mentors like Rashard Peterson and Brandon Jessup, who really were leading the way at campus around social justice and racial equity. And I admired them, and I wanted to be like them. And I don't think I ever told them that, but I saw.
Well, they know today.
Right, I would see the way Brandon would command the room, the way people listen to Rashard, and even Delma, and the way people, it's like everything stopped. They were talking, and you knew they meant business, and I was like, you know what, I want to have that type of impact.
Right. And I don't think, like Shatina said, that part, we agree. I agree, because that's exactly what it was. Like, as soon as they opened up their mouths, you were not going to talk. There was no ifs, ands, buts about it. You're about to listen, whether you like it or not. And I loved that. Loved it.
Yeah. I remember those meetings in King Hall, the NAC meetings, where we would just have, it was really, I was a freshman. I didn't know what I was doing. I was invited to one of the meetings in King Hall, and I think that might have been my first time in that building. And I got introduced to the Multicultural Center that year as well. Keith Jason was the graduate assistant, if I remember correctly. My dates are all off, but anyway.
They hold it against you, but still keep going.
Yeah, there was an issue where there was a swastika or something.
I remember that
on a student's door, and they were outraged, and they fired us up, and they said, "We will not stand for this. The university will do something." And just the way in which they went about it, and so I told myself that I wanted to be a part of that group that they were pulling together to make a difference, so that things like that didn't happen. And how the Community Creed Task Force came about, and how I got involved, really just admiring the work that Rashard and Brandon Jessup were doing.
And I absolutely, I love that. And I love this comment that, says, love to see this from a PWI true EMU, once again, setting the example. And I think, like, just going back to what I remember, that like it was yesterday when that, swastika showed up and the campus went nuts. Like, and we're going to talk a little bit, later on about how we can, learn from those moments, in order to embrace the future. But it's great to see that, like, student leaders took the time out, like you, like Brandon, who said, you know what, no, this is not about to go down. We're about to make some change, and we're about to see this. And because of that, the students that are on our campus right now are able to reap the harvest from the seeds that was sown back when we were on campus. So I think that is most definitely great. We got a comment from Eric Brown that said, we oftentimes do not yell at one another. How proud we are of each other, especially Black men. And he says, I'm proud of what this young man has accomplished. Me too, Eric. Me too. So
when you say young, because as I get closer to 40, I'm knocking on that door.
Listen, I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
I have gray, so I dye my hair. I believe that until I'm 40, you can't see it. You can't see it.
I was like, I don't want to hear it because you know how old I am. I don't want to hear it. Like, we're not about to go there. We're not about to go there. So as we were talking about, like, I want to go more into just the work that started at Eastern and kind of led you into where you are right now. So let's talk a little bit more, about that. So you transitioned from, student leadership and, and making changes on campus to now where you are at, Kent State. Like, that's a huge position to be in and those shoes to fill. So how has that experience been for you? And share just a little bit about that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've been in my role since September 15th of 2020. So right in the middle of the pandemic, right after all of the outrage from George Floyd. In fact, my very first day, there was a student protest. It was before my first day. The day I signed the contract, there was a student protest. And I was asked, can you go out and be with the students and show them that we have support? And I was like, absolutely. And that was really my introduction to my role in that campus-wide way, was a student protest around some incidences that were happening right there at home on Kent State's campus. And so it started off really like throwing you into the fire, but I'm so blessed to be able to have been prepared really by EMU and then by my other roles at both the University of Michigan and Kent State to be able to do this job successfully. I will say it's the hardest job I've had outside of being a teacher. So that was the hardest job. And I don't know if any job will ever beat that. And the Army wasn't even that hard, just to be honest with you. But it's a very complex role that requires high level thinking, working with high level administrators, as well as thinking through everyone's needs and making sure that their needs are center of the conversation. And it's difficult because you're really combating and resisting, normal, what people see as normal.
Right. Absolutely.
What we're doing isn't necessarily first of mind or top of mind when people are having conversations.
And I think that's like that is real. Like, right there is that people just think that like, oh, well, this is what it is, right? Like this is just normal. And it's like, no, like it's not. And that right there. We got a comment from Shatina, and she says, we learned a lot during our time at EMU. There's something magical about what happens during your tenure. Yes, as a student leader, that's unmatched. And I can agree with that wholeheartedly. Like, it's during those moments, as student leaders, that we see the change, we invoke the change, we be the change, and that right there accumulates and gets us to the point of where we are today.
Right.
EMU has produced some amazing alumni. I agree. We love Marnice. Yes, right. We are so glad to have gone to school with you too, friend. So let's talk a little. Like, I want to go a little bit deeper into your position, because I know that you mentioned something on your social for people who are not privy to following you. Like, you had a situation, what was it, yesterday, where somebody Zoom bombed the meeting that you were in. Like, how did you handle that? Because again, for us, Black history is 365 days of the year, right? And us dealing with, injustice, and us dealing with racism, is not just a part of our history, but it's a part of American history, whether folks want to, embrace it or not. But we are still dealing with situations, unfortunately, as I say, jokers done got bold with it, and took over Zooms. So how did you handle that situation alone?
Yeah. Well, first, I'm so happy that we were able to do what we're doing. So during the pandemic, a lot of people feel disconnected, and especially with everything that has happened to and against Black folk and Black-bodied individuals in this country, even right there at home at Kent State University. We felt that it was important to have some community gatherings and community conversations where we have a DJ on Zoom, and we have breakout rooms where we can have conversations about different things, or just stay in the room with the DJ and vibe out,
Yeah.
And we wanted to, we usually have those type of events during the year when we're in person. And so I felt like we needed to do that, and so my CDO VP, who is amazing, basically encouraged us to do it, and so we did it. And this was the second one, and so we did one last semester. We're doing it this semester, and so people came in and did some very wild things. I don't even want to repeat what they did, but it had an instant reaction to me, and as I was sharing with you, is that I wanted to cry. I felt like as the leader in the meeting, I was impacted adversely by that happening, and I was having a reaction, and I had to keep reminding myself that everyone's looking at you, that you are the leader in this space, and so I had to subdue my own visceral, like really core raw emotions in the moment to make sure the students and the staff and faculty there knew that this was still a safe place, that we were still reclaiming the safety and the sanctity of that space that we were building for everyone, and that we weren't going to let that stop us. We were, and it happened. The first one happened. Unfortunately, there was more than one in that meeting. The first one happened while we were giving reverence to our ancestors and the work and the labor that they've toiled on the campus of Kent State University and across this country, specifically our Associate Dean Emeritus, who passed away earlier, I think February 1st, and then also Dr. Crosby, Edward Crosby, who actually was the first chair of our Pan-African Studies Department and the first person to help celebrate Black History Month. As we're thinking about Black History Month, started at Kent. Kent was the very first place to start Black History Month, and that's the history that we're living in on our campus. Say again?
I said that's awesome. I was just agreeing with you.
He had passed away a few days ago, so we were honoring those two gentlemen who made a major difference in our community, and also just has impacted, their impact and imprint has left a mark around this world. And then we got that. And so I had to keep reminding myself, because as Dean Peoples said the other day, I was a lot more radical than I am now. I'm still pretty
which is like, you'll still come for you, but
yeah. But when you're in a leadership position and other people are watching you, and you are also I see myself in this role sometimes a custodian of the sanctity of Black safety on campus and in our space that bring us together. And I have to be mindful of the way in which I react, because if I get riled up, then everyone gets riled up. And then we possibly could have a situation that might not be able to be contained. When I have a role in helping heal us and bring us to a place of healing. And I'll leave with this, is I realized that moment and being that person, one of those people to do that, is also having a impact on me, where I need a space to release. And so I was just saying that I think I need to go back through counseling, because this weighs on me heavily, because the way I would normally react, I can't.
Right, right. And I think like that, and I don't think people realize like the magnitude of that, like the spaces that we're in and the responsibility that we have, and then how important like our reactions right there may affect, the others who are either currently there or those who are coming after us. And then it's important for us to take care of ourselves so that we can continue to do the work. So that
Yeah.
that really scared me. So that is so key. So even looking at talking about doing the work, tell us a little bit about who. I know you talked about some of the student leaders who have paved the way for you to where you are today. You want to go a little bit more in depth in regards to who you feel has made a tremendous impact in your success and where you are.
Yeah, I mean, there was peers of mine who made a difference. I remember, freshman year, third floor of Putnam, just starting. I was a little shy kid, which you probably believe me now.
They
But yeah,
wouldn't believe me. I said other folks who would meet you, I said they totally wouldn't believe that you were shy. I knew how shy you were, but some other folks wouldn't have knew
yeah,
that.
I definitely was. I didn't necessarily. I knew I wanted. I knew I had this fire in me. I knew I wanted to make a difference, but how I wasn't sure. And I met some great guys on third floor, and Ed Williams being one of them, and Alexander Simpson being another one. They all lived right on the same floor, a few doors down. And with Alex and I, we made a bet that who would get the highest GPA. And I tried to beat him, and every semester he beat me. He was my biggest best friend / rival that I had, because he always beat me. And yet I'm sitting here sweating in the library, and he looked like he's, no sweat, nothing's bothering him. Life's goes great, it's going great, and I'm, basically sweating
So
here.
what type of work are you putting in?
And then he comes out with a 4.0, and I got a 3.9. I'm like, what the heck? A minus. So, but anyway, but it was people like that where we began to build relationships where we would push each other to be better, and we built this brotherhood, and I'm still brothers with them to this day, and talk with many people from my freshman year on the third floor of Putnam. It was a really good experience. So that was somewhat of the start. I mentioned Brandon Jessup and Rashad, but I also mentioned some of those leaders. Keith was one of those people that I met freshman year because of Judy Sturgis Hill.
Yes. Yes.
Phenomenal. And talking about ancestors, like God rest her soul, she poured in you. Like,
yes,
you were not the same person if
after
you
she got done with you. That's it.
Just you weren't the same person afterwards. And I valued my conversations with her. She was a faculty in residence, and she would always pull us into programs and make sure that we went to different things. And she was the first person. So people who know me, and I love jazz music, and I love classical music. Judy took me to my first orchestra.
Oh, that right there is a moment that you'll never forget. I know.
Yeah. And I didn't want to go. She said, "You're going. You are going." And she took me. I fell in love with the music, and so now people think I'm weird because my music taste, but it's like those type of experiences that she just opened your mind, hearts, and eyes to. And so I'm appreciative of her. I'm appreciative of Dean Peoples. And when we first met, we didn't I wouldn't say we had the best relationship because I, went to tell him off. So
which he nicely brought that up. So for those who are watching, if you missed my conversation with Dean Peoples, he nicely points out Dr. NJ, who told him, "I can do your job better."
I mean, I don't know if those were my exact words, but
He said those were your words, bro.
he tends to remember. I have a bad memory, so I do remember I went in there because I was at this point I'd seen the impact that people were making. And this was before I became an alpha. I think once I became an alpha, I really, and I don't think it was because of alpha, but I think it's because of the people that you get surrounded by. I became a little more comfortable in my leadership and being able to be outspoken. But before that, he did. Okay. I just was upset with, the support that Black people were getting on campus. And we had went from a person multicultural center to a Keith Jason only multicultural center. And this is no shade to Keith Jason, but I was like, he's white. And we don't have anybody to go to. We all know Keith Jason is cool and he understands. But at the end of the day, we went from, and I can't remember who the full-time professional was that left, but we went from having a space where there was two people to one person, and they were a part-time person, and I was upset about it. And so that was my first introduction to Dean Peoples, right? And we had a great relationship after that, but
so you had to go in there and let them know just a little bit.
Yeah. But what happened is Judy ended up becoming the associate director for diversity, and soon after that, I'm not saying I caused that, but that probably was in the plans already. But that happened afterwards, and then obviously I had a relationship with Judy after that, and so it became great. Glenna, who obviously is not Black, she was also a very good mentor of mine. I wouldn't say she got me out of trouble, but she helped me rethink how I approach certain things.
Absolutely.
Without diminishing who I was or what I wanted to accomplish. And that right there is the true essence of leadership. There's so many other people. Ramona Morass Lewis, also from orientation. I was orientation leader. I would sit in her office and just talk with her, and Robin Chostowich, and also Dean Vernon Polite. He God rest his soul as well. I would just sit in his office and meet with him. And now that I'm an administrator and I understand what it really means to be a dean, like why would he let me sit in his office for 2 hours, knowing now I know
knowing how much work they got to do.
Yeah. By the time I didn't know, I thought his work was to listen to me.
Yes. And it's so funny, like being on the other side, right? Like, Dean Peoples talked about community, and having those individuals that literally took us in when we were freshmen, as we got through our 4 or 5 sometimes plus years being at the university. But it's that community that continuously drove us to ensure our overall success, not just as students, but also in our lives now in the positions that we are currently. So that right there is funny that you said, like, man, like they let me talk, they let me just sit there. Like I cannot, like Pat Williams that did it for me, as well as oh man, I could just keep naming folks. Barbara, like, listen, I remember them times where you just sat there and you just vented and talked and shared, not realizing like everything that was on their plate, but they didn't care. They took that time out. Like, yes, I'm going to be responsible. Yes, I'm going to get my job done, but I'm going to make sure that I pour into this particular person sitting right in front of me. They were present and in the moment, and I love that.
Definitely. And cell phones wasn't as big as it is now. Neither.
That's right. It was not at all.
I saw folks saying that, but but I think that it was just a different time where people just poured into you. And I honestly felt when I went to all of their offices and I honestly felt like I was important to them and that they that I mattered, And so I appreciated that because it has really helped shape how I approach my students now, and making sure that I don't give up on them, even if they're a little rough around the edges, and that I pour into them as much as possible. So hats off to all of those amazing leaders who during our time was just, they were plentiful.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think like even more, and it's funny, like going back to the sense of community, like one of the things like being back, at Eastern, being in the position that I'm in, like I remember like Leah wasn't just Leah, she was Mama Leah, and she knew my daddy. And let something happen, she was gonna call to the east side of Detroit to let them know if I wasn't acting right, right? So now me being in a position that, I've been like literally when we were on campus, folks would see me and be like, oh, hey, Auntie T, and they were like, they just call you Auntie? And I'm like, yeah. Because of the simple fact of the community that we received when we were there, like I want to make sure that our students receive the same exact response back. So I think that is just so, so important. I want to hit on over and talk about this newness of the Akron Public School Board, of Education, sir. Like that is a big, big deal. Come on and share. Because you had to get elected into that thing. You wasn't appointed into that bad boy. I saw how much work that you put in concerning it. So, share with us about that experience and how that was. And especially, being in that position and in that place of authority. And then also, dealing with, Black communities within Akron and students and such. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, first thing is, I'm from Detroit, so
yes, you are.
I'm not from here originally, and but when you grow up in 48204, you definitely learn how to survive, and so you learn a few things. And so, my good friend Shatina grew up around the corner from me, and so she understands. But I think that it's important that you just be with people and that you hear people and you listen to people and you show them that you care. And so when I was running for the school board, I was an unknown figure to many people because I didn't grow up here. And the way Akron is it's very incestuous. It's very, it's a town where I want to get to know you. It's not any, you can come into, you can be a Duggan in Detroit and come from the suburbs, move in the city and become mayor the next year. You can do that in Detroit. You cannot do that in Akron.
Yeah.
They're not listening to you. If you ain't proven yourself, then it's not coming. And I love Detroit. No, I don't even, I guess because I'm political now, they may see that as a political thing. That's not a shot at him. I just want to make that known.
Right. We know it's not. We know it's not.
I don't know that. I know he ain't from Detroit. So anyway, it's just, that's just not the way it works here. And so I had to get out.
We have another Ohio resident that said that's Ohio, period.
Hey, you got to earn your stripes here. So I went around to the communities where I was told not to go, that they didn't vote, and I talked to them. And I also went to the communities that did vote, and I just shared the simple message that all of us are in this community together, and our children matter, and we need to make sure that all of our voices are at the table, regardless of what zip code you live in or where they come from. Every child should get the fairest opportunity that they possibly can. And I lost to some political juggernauts the first time, but that didn't stop me. There was a lot of things that I learned in that first run that was helpful. Like there's a lot of things that you need to do that they don't tell you because they keep those secrets for people
themselves.
Yeah. But you learn some things. So I ran the second time, harder. And the first time also my mom died in the middle of it. And it just, I was a little bit off of my game as far as the fire. I didn't do any campaigning, maybe 5 months from the 5 weeks between my mom's passing and actually getting back out there on the campaign trail. So that affected some of the outcome, obviously. But I was going to lose anyway because you have political juggernauts in the race. Well, fast forward years later, I knew some of the tips. So I ran and I won. Came in second. I went from last to second, and second hugely as far as voter count. So that was good. And then I got on and I said the first thing we're going to do is make sure that more people can come speak before the board, because you had to give a 2-day notice and send something in writing and write anymore. All these the red tape that I thought we could have cut out, and we did. And so the board voted on it, and we were able to make it easier for people to sign up the same day to speak. And then we also worked with another board member to get our racial equity policy that passed just recently. And before that, I forgot to say, one of the biggest things that I wanted to do is make sure that we called out racism. And right after George Floyd's murder, it sped up that timeline for what we would do. And we were able to be the first school district in the nation to declare racism as a public health crisis. And we did it in June before the other districts did it. And they actually called us and used my work as the basis of their work, even though I was just in a presentation last week and they were shouting out another district for doing it. And I was like, wait, I advised them. Like, how are you?
Right. Like, no, let's get it right. Yeah.
But, not to say I need all the credit, but, at least, I'm in academia. So, you want to, you credit the right
sources.
Okay. So that's those. I think those things are important, but now as president of the board, we worked very hard to do those things in that first year. I take less of a role back from policy making and really helping to facilitate the process. And a lot of my time now is spent dealing with external entities and talking with them and bringing them back on board with the school district. Because we had such a turnover, there's been some people talking about, the new board members don't support this or that. So the presidency does give me an opportunity to hopefully change some minds and to share the narrative that is actually truthful, which is why we're actually there, which is the kids and making sure they have the bright future possible.
I love it. So I want to go a little bit more in depth in regards to like amplifying like Black voices during this time and leaving legacy. Like, as you mentioned, like now you're in a position where you're in a couple of different positions, right? Where you literally go beyond having a seat at the table. And I think like that is so important. And during this time, I want to talk a little bit about like why it's so important that even in the positions that we're in, whether it's higher education, whether, it's, sitting on school boards or other, organizational boards is concerned, like why now should we be amplifying Black voices?
I think we should have been doing it all along, but it's definitely something that we need to do now and not shy away from. I think before people tried to convince you why it wasn't important, you would hear, why do we have to have Black History Month, or why do we have to do a thing on Black people? Because people don't understand that we read and live white history every day.
Every day.
They're everywhere. The images and social programming that we receive, we are socially and culturally programmed to whiteness. And we're going to see Blackness as being beautiful, as Blackness as being powerful, Blackness as being intelligent, Blackness as being something that matters. You have to be able to proclaim it. And so it's very important that we do it, because otherwise we will be dimmed and our light will be diminished. And that's not something we need in this country. Each and every one of us provides value, regardless of how much we make or where we come from or whose mama we are. We have to be seen as valuable human beings. And if you can't see the humanity in people as individuals, then that's where we fail. And so we see that too much, all too often. And we totally did a radical revolt from living in this quote unquote post-racial society, which we never did, clearly, to electing the racist non-human in the world to become president of this country. And to live in 1600 Pennsylvania. That was a political statement on purpose. So I just think that we just need a greater focus on humanity. Yes. And I think when we do, we'll be able to make sure that Head Start and pre-K is not selective, that it's universal. Every child gets it. Currently, it's not paid for. And so that's something that's important to me. It also would mean that we would raise the minimum wage as a country. Those things are important to me. You know, we will start focusing on green energy and making sure that we get rid of fossil fuel reliance. And those things are important to me because we want to make sure that every human has a right to live a free life of harm. And those things are causing harm to all of us. And so I know that was political a little bit, but I just think it's important. And if I could say one more thing to our Ohio State legislators and everybody across the world, we need to fund our schools in a more fair way. Relying on property tax as the highest way to pay for schools is the biggest atrocity and inequality, inequity, I should say, that we've ever had. And it shows in the way in which outcomes are produced and the way in which we operate our schools. And we really need to get rid of voucher programs and this thing that forces public schools to pay for voucher transportation and pay for their bills. It takes again, you're already taking resources away from us. And then we have to use our staff to do their business. Those are things we need to get rid of because it's easy for people to make blackness and put the burden on the backs of blackness, but it's not easy for us to call it out and to say no more. So yes, we need to fund our schools fairly across this country.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So as we wrap up today's conversation, if you are just now joining us, welcome to Black History 365. Again, my name is Taquanda from the Division of Communications, sitting here with Dr. N.J. Akbar, who is a proud two-time EMU alum currently over at Kent State University, doing amazing things in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So one of the things I wanted to bring up as we end this out, again, if you have any comments or want to share, go on ahead. Our comment box is open right now. And we talked about like learning from our past, right, in order to embrace our future. And we've seen, like we spoke about earlier, is that we've seen some racial injustice while we were on campus, even after we left and such. But I want to share a little bit of like unknown, like little EMU Black History facts, right? So folks don't know beyond the creed, as I like to say it. And you and I have talked about like some of the strategic things that have happened as like student leaders, and I want to talk a little bit more about that too. Like I think a lot of times, and if some of our students are watching right now, one of the things that I've seen going back is like, of course, like our students are extremely vocal, and we've been extremely vocal, like even when we were students. So I want to share some unknown Black history facts, and I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's talk a little bit about and share with them. I know I mentioned the fact that you were homecoming king during your time here at Eastern, but let's take them back to that moment, because that was a pretty dope moment, at least for our time.
I mean, it was. I mean, I think it started, and again, my memory might be wrong, but we had a 5, 6, 7-year stint of having all Black homecoming kings.
Yes.
And I think it started with Brian Bowes. I believe it was 2003, and went to Cunell. Cooper, who was also Alpha, by the way. Actually, Brian Bowles is Alpha
Brian
too.
is too.
It might be a little history here. Just seeing Alphas run this everything. But anyway, then the Kappa had to get in there somewhere. So and Regent now, Alex came after that, and I came after him, and that was actually really a good moment to have one of my best friends pass the crown off to me in 06. And then I was able to pass it off to one of my good friends, Jamar Humphrey, and I think there might have been other people after that, but it was one of those things where when we saw that we could do it by making sure we had one strong candidate from our community, we ran that candidate, and we used that same philosophy and theory when it came to student government. We ran our candidates. We said, okay, here's our candidates. Everyone vote for these people. Don't vote for anybody else. Vote for these people to make sure that they get in. And that's how we began to get stronger and more Black representation, because EMU actually had at the time, and probably still today, a pretty decent number of Black community members. And Absolutely. What we saw was, what do you call it? We basically abdicated our role and our representation by not being able to be in that process. And so once we began to get more involved as a community, we saw more of us elected to student leadership positions. We saw more of us actually becoming homecoming king. And I think we had a few homecoming queens as well, but it wasn't as plentiful as the homecoming kings. And so just wanted to it was a really good moment for me because I really didn't think I was going to win. I had some really big competitors who were in the IFC, and as you probably could remember, I think IFC and the Panhandle were basically taking everything.
Everything.
To
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really big, but we were able to take it for 5 or 6 years straight. So.
And I think like that right there, like I love moments like that. Is that, just like you mentioned, is the fact that, hey, like we realized like, okay, like we can do this, and the fact that you were able to do it and then took that same philosophy is like, okay, well, you know what, now we done did this. Let's go to student government. Let's make some, changes here. And I think it's important as we, just talking about the future of Eastern. It's not just within, the alums coming back and talking or parents, sharing, but it's most importantly students, taking the stand in the areas that we need representation most. Like, yes, we understand that we need more representation when it comes to faculty and when it comes to staff. But then also, those student leaders taking the stand. So shout out to, the NAACP, shout out to the NPHC, shout out to, Black Student Union and everyone else who is still doing the work that
Black Student Alliance too. They didn't get a lot of credit, but they were really important in trying to bring us all together.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So, NJ, thank you. Dr. NJ, thank you so much for joining me today. I had a phenomenal time, and it looks like everyone else from the comments, that we're getting. Eric Brown says, thank you, love you, brother. This was a great interview. Thank you guys so much again for joining us today. Again, this is Taquanda from the Division of Communications here with my good friend, Dr. NJ Akbar, 2-time alum here at Eastern. And we thank you guys for tuning on in. Make sure that you stay locked here all week as we talk about Black History 365. We will be back tomorrow with Mark S. Lee. He is an EMU alum as well as an adjunct professor and owns the Lee Group. So we'll be talking with him Again, thank you everyone who have joined us. We're excited about all that's to come. Again, we're all about celebrating Black history 365 days of the year. You guys have a great day.
Bye. Thank you for having me. Go green.